Have you ever been in a group conversation where everyone is talking over each other, opinions flying, jokes bouncing around, and you're just watching? You're there, you're listening, you're noticing who interrupts who laughs a little too hard, who suddenly goes quiet when a certain topic comes up. And at some point, someone looks at you and says, "You're so quiet today," as if quiet is a malfunction, as if something must be wrong. Maybe you've heard, "Why don't you talk more?" Or "You're so mysterious." Or the classic, "You're thinking too much." And maybe you smiled politely, or shrugged, or said nothing at all. But inside, you wondered why observing more than speaking feels so misunderstood. Because here's the thing most people miss. Not everyone processes the world by talking through it. Some people process it by watching it. And if you're one of those people, this isn't an accident. It's psychology. People who observe more than they speak live in a different mental rhythm. While others are externalizing their thoughts in real time, your brain is often doing something else entirely. It's gathering data. It's scanning patterns. It's building a bigger picture before deciding whether it's worth adding a piece to the puzzle. Think of a conversation like a chessboard. Some people play by making moves quickly out loud, feeling their way through the game as they go. Others sit back, studying the board, noticing subtle shifts, anticipating future moves. They're not passive, they're strategic, and psychology suggests that this observational style often comes from deeper cognitive processing. Your brain is wired to notice more than just words. You pick up on tone changes, micro-expressions, timing, energy shifts. You notice when someone's joke is covering insecurity. You notice when enthusiasm feels forced. You notice when silence is saying more than speech ever could. And all of that takes mental bandwidth. Neuroscience has shown that some people have higher sensory and emotional sensitivity, not in a fragile way, but in a receptive way. Their nervous systems are tuned to receive more input. So when they're in social settings, especially busy ones, their brains are already working hard. Talking on top of that can feel like adding another app when your phone battery is already low. This is one reason people who observe more than they speak often feel drained after social interactions, even if they enjoyed them. It's not social anxiety, it's cognitive load. Your brain has been active the entire time, just not visibly so. And here's where the misunderstanding begins. In many cultures, especially loud, fast-paced ones, speaking is seen as engagement. Silence is seen as absence. If you're not contributing verbally, people assume you're bored, uninterested, or disconnected. But internally focused people know the truth. Silence can be full. There's a quiet confidence in not rushing to fill space. People who observe tend to speak when they actually have something to say, not just something to add. Their words are often fewer, but heavier, more intentional, more precise, and that can make others uncomfortable, especially those who equate talkativeness with value. Psychologically, this observing tendency is often linked to high self-awareness. You're not just aware of the room, you're aware of yourself in the room, how you're coming across, how others might interpret your words, the potential consequences of saying something that isn't fully formed yet. So instead of thinking out loud, you think inward. Self-awareness is a double-edged sword. It allows for depth, empathy, and emotional intelligence, but it can also make speaking feel like a performance, like you need to choose your words carefully, like once you speak, you can't take it back. Observing feels safer, more accurate, more honest. And let's be clear, this isn't about fear. Most people who observe more than they speak aren't scared of talking. They're selective. They're listening for meaning, not noise. They're waiting for the moment where their contribution actually adds value rather than just filling air. You can see this clearly in group dynamics. The observer often knows who the real leader is before anyone else does. They know who holds influence, who seeks validation, who feels overlooked. They notice the undercurrents others miss because those others are too busy swimming on the surface. This observational style also shows up in how people process emotions. While some people immediately talk through what they're feeling, observers tend to sit with emotions first. They analyze them. They ask quiet questions. Why did that bother me? Why did that comment stick? What's really going on here? Psychologists call this internal processing. Instead of regulating emotions through external feedback like reassurance or conversation, observers often regulate internally. They reflect, they connect dots, they let feelings settle before naming them. This can look distant from the outside, but internally there's a lot happening. It's also why people who observe more than they speak are often deep thinkers. Their minds don't jump quickly from one thing to the next. They linger. They replay conversations. They explore multiple interpretations, not because they're stuck, but because they're thorough. Historically, many philosophers, scientists, and artists fit this pattern. Think of people who were described as quiet, reserved, or introspective, yet produced work that reshaped how we understand the world. Their power didn't come from dominating conversations. It came from seeing what others overlooked. But in everyday life, this strength can feel like a liability, especially when you're younger or in environments that reward quick responses and loud confidence. You might start to wonder if you should talk more, if you're being too quiet, if your way of engaging is somehow wrong. That's where empathy matters, because observing more than speaking isn't a flaw to fix, it's a trait to understand. And like any trait, it has trade-offs. You might not be the loudest voice in the room, but you're often the one who sees the room most clearly. There's also an emotional layer here that often goes unspoken. Many observers learned early on that listening was safer than speaking. Maybe they grew up in environments where being quiet meant avoiding conflict, or where speaking up didn't feel welcome. Over time, observation became not just a preference, but a skill. Psychology recognizes this as adaptive behavior. The brain learns what works and repeats it. If watching helped you understand people better, avoid mistakes, or feel more in control, your mind kept doing it. That doesn't mean you're stuck that way. It means your brain optimized for awareness. And awareness, when understood and embraced, becomes powerful. Observers often make excellent decision makers because they've considered multiple angles. They're less reactive, less impulsive, more measured. In a world that moves fast, that slowness can be grounding. There's also something deeply human about choosing not to speak when words feel unnecessary. Silence can be respect. It can be curiosity. It can be presence. Sometimes the most meaningful moments in life aren't narrated. They're felt. Of course, none of this means observers never struggle. There are moments when being quiet feels isolating, when you want to speak but don't know how to jump in, when you're misunderstood as distant or cold. Those moments are real, and they deserve compassion. But understanding the psychology behind your observing nature can shift how you see yourself. Instead of asking, "Why don't I talk more?" you might ask, "What am I noticing right now?" Instead of forcing yourself to perform, you can trust that your way of engaging is valid. And here's a gentle truth. The people who matter most will notice your presence even when you're silent. They'll feel seen by you, heard by you, because observers listen in a way that's rare. And when they do speak, it lands. So if you're someone who observes more than you speak, know this. You're not invisible. You're not broken. You're not behind. Your mind is simply tuned to depth over volume. And in a world that never stops talking, that might be exactly what we need more of. If this resonated with you, take a moment to sit with it. Maybe even notice how often you've been observing without giving yourself credit for it. And if you want to keep exploring the psychology behind these quiet patterns of human behavior, you know where to find me. Until next time, take care of your mind. Sometimes the most powerful voices are the ones that don't need to speak often.